So I have a belief that's a little bit controversial. I believe in something called the mid-tribulation rapture. But technically, I think the terms are wrong. I think it's post-tribulation, pre-wrath rapture. And the common belief nowadays is a pre-tribulation rapture. So let me tell you how I came to this, okay? Anybody that teaches on Revelation is going to jump around a lot of places and say this means this and this means that. But honestly, everything that should be defined is defined within Revelation. I'm not going to really touch on Revelation too hardcore, except to point out some of the seals. What I really want to focus on is if I want the answer to something, I want to go straight to the source. So for me, that's Jesus. But let's start just looking at the seals. Okay, that's in Revelation chapter 6. The first seal, you have the white horse, which is the Antichrist. Most theologians agree on this. Second seal you have is the red horse, which is war. And the third seal is a black horse, which is a scarcity and famine. Then the fourth seal you have is a pale horse, which is basically people getting killed by hunger and death and the beasts of the earth. And then you have the fifth seal, which is martyrs. And then you have the sixth seal, which is the sun becomes black as sackcloth of hair, the moon becomes blood, the stars of heaven fall out upon the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs, when she is shaken of the mighty wind, and heaven departed as a scroll which is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their place. Okay? So those are the 6 seals. There's 7 seals, but I'm not going to get into that. So, back in the day, Jesus is sitting there with his disciples, privately, is what it says. And I'm using the King James Version. And they sat upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? Okay? So you have a twofold question there. What is the sign that you're returning, and the end of the world? Okay? Now, a lot of people will jump to the very end that believe in this pre-tribulation rapture and say, watch there. This is 24:42. It says, watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come. Right? And it's the 2 people in the field and all that stuff. All right. Here's Mark 13. And in Mark 13, it's a parallel passage. It says the same things, maybe a little bit differently, as Matthew 24 and Luke 21, which are all parallel, right there. Jesus says it a little bit differently in Mark 13:32. So I want to read his words here. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. So in Jesus, in his own words, he's saying, I don't know when this is going to happen. Only my Father does. So when the disciples are asking him, what is the sign of the end of the world and your second coming? I believe at this time when he's on earth, he doesn't really know what day, that hour that would be. So the disciples that he's talking to could potentially, in his mind, be the last generation. So if he's talking to them like they're the last generation, we should take those words to be the same for us. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Matthew 24, verse 4, And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Sounds like the first seal, Antichrist. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, and see that you be not troubled, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilence, and earthquakes in divers places. Wars, famines, pestilence. Okay? That sounds like the other seals to me. And all these are the beginning of the sorrows. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. I must have missed something. There's supposed to be a rapture there, right? You're getting out of here. You're not going to have to go through it. Because God wouldn't beat up his bride. That's not true. Okay? Every believer has their faith tested and refined like gold. And this is a biblical accuracy throughout all the New Testament. Okay? So, to me that tells me that we're going to be persecuted. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Yeah, I could see that. People waiting on a rapture that didn't come, and maybe an antichrist government does a roundup in the middle of the night, and a lot of Christians do disappear. Not in a rapture, but to be persecuted, to be put in prison, to be put to death. And then the ones that don't know what's going on are going to sit there and go, well, I was a good Christian. Why didn't I go in this rapture? Well, you're going to lose faith. Which would be the great apostasy, the falling away. And many false prophets shall arise and deceive many, and because iniquity shall abound, and the love of many shall wax cold, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Jesus is teaching endurance to the end. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. A lot of people like to stop there or cherry pick this verse. And you're like, we got to spread the gospel before Jesus comes. And it's a good thing to spread the gospel. It really is. But it's actually in line of events. And once we get to Revelation, you're going to see that this is actually angels and 144,000 witnesses that are actually fulfilling the end of it, which we couldn't complete on our own. When you therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Okay, so this is very Jerusalem-centric. If we look back at Daniel chapter 12, he actually talks about the abomination of desolation. Okay, and just for clarity, I'm using the CJB Bible verse on this one. So Daniel chapter 12, verse 11, from the time the regular burnt offering is taken away and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. How blessed will be anyone who waits and arrives at the 1,335th day. All right. The abomination of desolation is basically an idol of some type, or the man of sin, perdition, standing in the holy temple, proclaiming himself to be God, to be above God. Okay? So, when we look at that, the wording in the King James Bible and other English translations is a little bit obscure, and I looked through the Hebrew to try to get a better sense of it, and there's some article missing that says that differentiated between, is it these two things happen at the same time, or is it one thing happens and then the other? I think the CJB makes it a little bit clearer. From the time of the burnt offering is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. How blessed is anyone who waits and arrives at the 1,335th day. Okay, so this is a short, something is very blessed 45 days after the abomination of desolation. Okay, so now that we understand what the abomination of desolation is, let's go back to Matthew 24, all right, 16. Let them which is in Jerusalem flee to the mountains. Let him is on the mountaintop not come down and take anything. Neither let him which is in the field return to take his clothes. Woe to those that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, nor on the Sabbath. Okay, great. So Jerusalem-centric, and he's like, look, when this happens, don't turn back for anything. Just get out. Go to the mountains. It's going to be really hard for anybody that's nursing a child. Of course, if you're fleeing and you're nursing a child, that's hard. It's going to be even harder if it's in winter or if it's on the Sabbath, mainly because everything's closed. You can't get provisions or supplies. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor shall ever be. Okay, so this is what Jesus calls the Great Tribulation, right here, starting. And except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Elect is just the believers, okay? That's all that means. And if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall rise false prophets, and false Christ, and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Okay? Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chamber, believe it not. For as the lightning comes out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So this isn't going to be a secret thing. Jesus Christ coming back. You're going to be able to see it no matter where you are. Just like a lightning bolt that shines all across the sky. Okay? For wherever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, if there's a body, eagles fly and get together to eat on that body. All right? So this is just an allusion to where us being gathered. But let's look a little bit further at this. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, so after the tribulation of those days of persecution there and false prophets and everything, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. That sounds just like the sixth seal in Revelation. Almost verbatim. Okay? And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven, and with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. That sounds like a rapture to me. So basically you have Jesus coming in the clouds for all the world to see. You have the nations mourning because they know that what's coming next is the wrath. And you have Jesus sending out the angels with the sound of a trumpet to gather his people from all over the world. Okay. So Jesus could have stopped there, but he used some parables to help further illustrate this. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When its branch is yet tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Okay. So he's using the analogy. When you see a fig tree starting to bud a little leaf, you know summer's getting closer. When you see all these things that he's just finished describing, these antichrist, these pestilence, these wars, these famines, you know you're getting closer. It's very close. Okay? Heaven and earth shall pass away. This is verse 35. But my word shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Okay, this is exactly what he said in Mark 13. Okay? Except he doesn't qualify, I don't know either. Not the Son. That's the difference in Mark. Okay? But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating, drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay. So this is the analogy that Jesus is making, the comparative between the days of Noah and the end times. Okay? That everything is going to go about its normal progress. People will eat, drink, marry, do all their things until the exact day and moment that the flood comes or the rapture comes. Okay? Then two shall be in the field, and one of them shall be taken and one left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the one left. Okay, yeah, because one's a believer and one's not. Okay, but again, this is after the sun and moon are darkened and everything like that, right? Watch ye therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be you also ready, for in such an hour as you think not the Son of Man cometh. Okay? So people say, oh, it comes like a thief in the night. Yeah, absolutely. If you're not watching. That's what that parable says. If this good man of the house had known the hour that the thief was coming, he would have watched, and then he wouldn't have had his place broken into. And Jesus is saying, therefore, be you also ready. Watch, for in such hours that you think that the Son of Man cometh. Think not that the Son of Man cometh. There you go. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to be given them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find doing so. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. Okay, so if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing when God comes, when Jesus comes, you're going to be rewarded. But if you backslide into wickedness, because you go, man, he was supposed to come, I don't believe this anymore, because I was taught a pre-tribulation rapture, and you backslide into wickedness, well, then what's going to happen? If that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming. Interesting that he uses those words, right? And shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunkards. The Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I didn't see a pre-tribulation rapture in there. Sorry. But maybe you do, you know. And if you'd like to talk about it, discuss it, debate it, I'm down for that. If you'd like to schedule a Zoom call sometime to do that, reach out to me. I'll put my email address down here for you. And then we can get further into it. But I hope that explains why I believe what I believe, and why I don't feel like I have to jump around all over the place just to cherry pick some verses.
So if you've enjoyed this video, if you've learned something from it, if you touched on something and now you're a little bit more curious to know about it, please go and Amazon. You can find my book, Let No Man Deceive You, and it goes into a lot more in-depth study in this. But again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. This is my email address. If you agree, if you disagree, if you want to debate the topic, but I would love to have you get together with me on a Zoom call, and that way it can be used for the edification of everyone.